Hello, my name is Harry, and this is Learn English with British Harry. I hope you're all well. And today I'm joined by Avery from Arc English. Avery, how are you today?
Very good. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. So, thank you for taking the time to come onto the
Mhm.
podcast. So, this is a natural conversation for our listeners to hear native English in practice. So, Avery, how has your day been so far?
It's been all right. It's been a good Sunday.
Yeah,
The time difference is a little different over there
yeah,
versus here in Canada. So just woke up, had some breakfast, and hopped on to this call with you. So excited to
perfect.
chat. Yeah.
Perfect. And how's the weather? It's a very popular topic in the UK here. So how's the weather there?
Yeah, it's tough. In Canada, there's a blizzard right now. So
Wow.
we have snow that's, I had to guess, I'd say the snow is maybe 3 or 4 feet of snow. It's really bad. So
Yeah. But are you
it's
are you are you used to it? Have you just become
um
accustomed to it?
yeah, I mean every January and February every year,
Yeah.
there's at least 1 or 2 weeks that are pretty harsh.
Okay.
Um, and then things start to get a little bit better towards the end of March. So yeah, you could say I'm used to it,
Yeah.
but it still doesn't change the fact that it's pretty unpleasant outside.
Yeah. So do you prefer sunnier, hot weather, or don't you have a preference?
I I'd say just because I've lived here my whole life, I do like the change of season
Yeah.
between hot and cold. I enjoy the fall and the spring as well.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I would say I would prefer a change of season, just not as extreme as it is here in
Yes.
Canada. If it got
Yeah.
down to around 0 degrees Celsius, that would be a good low.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that would be ideal in a perfect world. So,
Yeah. I think
what about
you have a larger wardrobe when you have the different seasons.
Oh,
Um, I,
absolutely.
I quite like my accessories like gloves and scarves, uh, so you can adapt it to the different season. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say that is true. That is kind of nice to have. That's also why I would say I enjoy a
Yeah,
change of seasons instead of just having it be plus 30 degrees Celsius
yeah,
all the time. I honestly don't think I'd ever be able to get accustomed to
yeah,
something like that, like if you lived in Dubai or somewhere like that.
yeah.
So yeah.
Perfect. And so if we think about YouTube for a second, in terms of content creation, it's
Mhm.
become that word content creation has become part of a lot of people's lives. How we interact with content, how we interact with others. How have you found content creation, and when did you get into rather than consuming content and then moving into creating content?
Yeah, I'd say I started creating content. I think it might have been about 2 to 3 years ago.
Okay.
I actually work in a different industry. I work in the real estate industry, actually.
Okay.
But just on the side, I've decided to do this. In what led up to it is in the country of Canada,
Yeah.
it's a very big country. There are English speaking regions in Canada, and there are also French speaking regions in Canada.
Okay.
So I moved from one of the English speaking regions over to the French speaking regions, and I had to learn the French language
Okay.
for work. Um, it was extremely difficult, and I made a ton of mistakes just when it came to language learning in general.
Yeah.
And then that kind of sparked the idea
Yeah.
to advise people on to not make all the same mistakes that I made when I have to learn a new language. And a lot of these principles also apply to learning the English language.
Yeah.
So that's really what started it.
Okay.
Um, and then from there, I just started creating some content to assist people with their English, and it kind of took off from there over the last couple of years. So,
Brilliant. Before we had the pandemic, I was always thinking about creating a channel. And then even during the pandemic, I toyed with the idea of creating some content, but I think procrastination got in the way,
Mm.
and then I just put it off and put it off, and I had to just bite the bullet, and at some point just say, okay, let me create some content because I think with most people, we're so used to consuming content, and it almost gets to a tipping point where you say, okay, I can translate my experience and I can help people as well. Or it could be a point where you've been putting it off for such a long time where you say, right now is the time to start creating content. And what are some of the challenges you faced when creating content?
Yeah, so yeah, your experience is normal. I went through something similar. Before I really started the channel Arc English, before then, I actually attempted to do the same thing about a year before that. And I just didn't stay committed to it.
Yeah,
I just made a few videos and I kind of just quit
yeah,
and waited an entire year
wow,
until I decided to do it again.
yeah,
So in my mind, I always thought it would be a good idea in theory.
yeah,
I guess I just didn't really know how to apply it
mm,
with my schedule and make everything fit in and make everything work logistically,
yeah,
like systematically.
yes,
So it's the biggest challenges were just that finding the time to make content that is original, but that will also still work in the
yeah,
algorithms that are ever
yes,
changing.
yes,
Um, and then also, of course, just finding the time to actually record it, have it edited, have it scheduled, and just be organized essentially with a limited period of time. But it really
yeah,
forces you to be very creative with your time management. When you,
definitely.
yeah.
Definitely. And I personally, I was surprised at the amount of time and effort it takes to create content. So I have a newfound respect for all content creators, regardless of any, whatever you're creating. I find that it takes even like mental energy where you're planning for what you're going to create and then going through the process. How did you find that?
Yeah, it was. I found also it was psychologically challenging
Yeah,
because, especially with some of these platforms, such as Instagram, for an example, um, I had a very, very small platform, a very
yeah,
small following, probably for the first 6 to 9 months,
yeah,
maybe 6 to 12 months. And then around month 12, it finally just took off with like one post,
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
That just changed everything. But psychologically, to keep posting consistently
yeah.
when you're not really getting that much traction or any tangible results,
Yes.
and just trying to keep going and keep figuring it out, essentially,
Yeah.
that's very psychologically difficult because it's so unpredictable or unknown if it's really going to work or if it won't, essentially.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, definitely. You have to have that thing, determination,
yeah.
having a routine really helps. And I think also for me, being an English teacher, it was nice for me to share my videos with my students. So
Mm,
after the lessons, they have something to refer back to. But I
mm,
think that the concept of being able to share knowledge and learning something and sharing your experience, I think it's wonderful because you're able to help so many people. Now, I think it's impossible to please everyone, but you can share your personal, your unique experience. So if whether it's learning vocabulary or listening to a conversation like we're having now.
yeah.
And maybe some people, they don't have access to listen to a real conversation. So
Mm,
listening to a conversation, it can help them to pick up on the rhythm of speech, vocabulary, and how people interact and bounce ideas off each other. Because I found, especially with English learning and building fluency, a big part is connecting ideas together. So when you were having to learn, you mentioned you went to a French speaking part of Canada. So
Yeah.
did you grow up learning French or did you have to learn it from scratch?
So in the country of Canada, they do implement French
Yeah.
into the curriculum as you're going through school growing up, but that's another thing I critique heavily in a lot of my videos as well on YouTube
Yeah.
is formal education by itself
Mm.
is not going to be enough to make you fluent in another language. You're going to have to go above and beyond and do certain things in your own time
Yeah. Yeah.
outside of that classroom.
Yeah.
So they would teach us numbers, they would teach us colors,
Yeah.
they would teach us the alphabet,
Yeah.
how to conjugate extremely basic verbs,
Yes.
but absolutely nobody was going to start speaking fluently from those particular lessons.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had to. It came to a point where I really had to take things upon myself to self learn the language.
Perfect. Very good. And so would you say that you're fluent in French now or at an advanced level?
Yeah, I would say I've been learning it. I've been learning it seriously for about 4 to 5 years now. And I would say by this point, yes, I can speak it fairly fluently for my job, at least when it comes to real estate related activities.
Yeah.
But it was really hard. I made a lot of mistakes, and you have to go through a lot of embarrassing situations too. And then also, it doesn't really help that the French here in Canada is a little bit unique.
Okay.
They speak a different dialect than pretty much the rest of the French speaking world. So their French is quite unique here in the province of Quebec. So.
Okay. I think you also had a strong driving force. You had huge motivation there where you had to learn it for your job. And I think especially when people are learning English, to keep that in mind, to remind yourself what is your purpose, what's your driving force for learning English. Because sometimes you can get lost in, students can get lost in grammar and vocabulary, and they lose sight of why they are learning English. I think if you're studying for a specific exam, like IELTS or TOEFL, or at high school or university, it makes it easier. But
Mm-hmm.
as adults, we talked about juggling time, trying to incorporate English into your daily life. Sometimes can be challenging. So I think remembering the benefits of learning English, like career opportunities, travel, even as a hobby, I think is good because it forces you to grow and learn new things. And talking about hobbies, I can spot a guitar in the background.
Yeah.
Is it for show? Is it like a showpiece, or do you play the guitar?
No, I used to play the guitar and the bass
Yeah.
guitar you see
Okay.
there. When I
Nice.
have a little bit of time, I still try to play, but it's it's tricky to find time sometimes these days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I played it a ton when I was in high school,
Okay.
a lot when I was in university,
Yeah.
less so now, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I've
So
dabbled in the past with acoustic guitars. I haven't played for a while because life has got in the way. But I think it's a nice thing to do. So do you have what other hobbies and interests you have?
teaching English.
Yeah.
That's a hobby.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah, play music. But I work. I honestly work a lot, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I used to be a basketball player as well. I played a lot in high school and university, and a little bit after as well. But nowadays, it's I rarely play still. It'll be rare that I get to do a lot of my hobbies. Just at this particular stage in my life, I'm working quite a bit, so
Yeah.
hopefully I'll be able to buy some of my time back in the near or distant future. So
Yeah. It's if we think about having a work-life balance, does that exist?
Not really, not
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
not right now. It's more. It feels more like a work-life integration in a
yeah,
sense. If
yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah,
It feels more like feels more like that, especially in the industry of real estate. It's a very social industry.
yeah,
So I mean, you can do a lot of things recreationally, but at the same time, you may still be discussing business or trying to work out or solve some sort of problem while simultaneously doing something recreational with a potential client.
right.
So, um,
So there's no
yeah,
escape.
not really, no.
Yeah,
Because anybody could be a potential client in theory. So it's almost like you're working in every social interaction in a
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think if you enjoy your job, then I think there's a difference. So I'm a professional English teacher, and I also create content on YouTube as well. So that takes up a lot of my day. So I think I'm consumed with English 24/7. Um,
yeah,
but I think sometimes taking a break from that to have a balance, I think can be really good. I think just for your emotional health, well-being. For example, I try to get to the gym, try and do some exercise when I can. You mentioned basketball. Is there anything that you do outside of work to keep your body ticking over?
well, yeah, I try to exercise every morning from Monday through Friday
Okay.
before I go to work, actually. I just try to get up and just do an hour,
Yeah.
just a lot of exercise. It's really good for when you're sitting a lot
Yeah.
all day to do some mobility exercises and then stretch at the end of it.
Yeah.
So I absolutely incorporate that. And then usually on the weekends, I'll try to take it easy on Friday night and Saturday morning. And then I'll usually work through the day on Saturday. And then I'll try to take it easy on Saturday night and Sunday morning, like this morning.
Yeah.
And then I'll usually get back to work for Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. So
Okay. Is there any specific type of exercise that you prefer to do?
it's pretty routine. Back when I played basketball, we had programs that we would follow, and I still follow some of those things I used to do from when I was playing basketball. So I incorporate some plyometrics, which
Okay.
helps with your jumping,
Yeah.
and then the rest would really just be resistance and weight training.
Yeah.
But still doing movements that you would have done in a basketball game, essentially.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially I think I'm a bit older than you are. So I think as you age, I think mobility is really important. I
Yeah.
think that takes center stage over everything else. I think for myself, a turning point was when I went to tie my shoelaces, my trainers, and I felt a twinge in my knee. And then I had to just sit down and put some ice on my knee. And I just thought, yeah, just thought, right, now I need to do a lot more stretching, mobility exercises. And I think, yeah, I think sometimes in life you have certain things that happen that force you to reassess and think, okay, I need to, because I think I was neglecting exercise. And especially in the UK where the weather is terrible, you have to have a lot of mental fortitude and determination to go out for a walk, but you're probably used to it with a blizzard.
Well,
So,
there is no option to go out for a walk.
yeah.
it's it's just I mean in the UK, how cold does it get in the UK? What
So,
is the coldest that it'll ever go down to?
so well, you can get into the minus degrees. That's what my car temperature tells me. We'll be going into spring, so the clocks will change next month at the end of March, and that will
Yeah.
signal the start of spring.
Mm.
So, but I think in the peak of winter, for example, if I leave a bottle of water in my car, the next day it will just be ice. Yeah, so it can get pretty cold. So you have to have that determination to go out. Having something like a dog, I see a lot of people going out for a dog, and that would force them to go out for a walk, I think. But especially when it's dark as well in winter, you don't really feel like you have a lot of energy to get out and about outdoors. So things like vitamin D, I think really
Yeah.
helps. Having one of those lights to simulate artificial sunlight can really help. So I think those things are really good.
Yeah, I've heard that about the UK. You guys don't get a lot of sunlight there,
Yeah,
apparently. Yeah.
yeah,
No, it makes a big difference. It really does
yeah,
make a huge difference.
yeah.
Some people might be confused. They might think it's a minute detail, but no, it makes a huge
Definitely,
difference.
definitely. And I think taking
Yeah.
vitamin D is really beneficial, not just to feel good, but it helps your body to absorb calcium as well as you age. So if you have poor mobility coupled with a lack of vitamin C, and if you have a fall, it can really escalate your health and it can go downhill very, very quickly. This is why during summer, people in Britain go crazy and just
Yeah.
try and make the most of the wind of the summers.
Right.
And the summers are strange as well. It's lovely. I love summer because it gets later. So it gets dark rather. It gets dark
Yeah.
later. So
Mhm.
9 or 9:30 in the evening, then it will start to get dark.
Mhm.
So it can mess with your body clock because you would think, okay, it's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening. Now it should be dark, but it gets to
Yeah.
9 o'clock and it's still daylight. So it takes some time for your body to get used to the extra daylight. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same here. Yeah, it's the winter humbles us, and then in the summer we definitely spend it outdoors. So
Work seems to take up a lot of your time. It's good that you're getting in some exercise. Do you have time to spend on any other activities? For example, Netflix, TV shows, or
uh,
movies?
on Friday nights or Saturday mornings, yeah, I try to. I usually watch YouTube more
Okay.
so than Netflix. Um, just honestly because of the time constraint almost.
Yeah.
It's just I find it easier to consume a 10-minute YouTube video
Yeah.
instead of watching like a 2 hour movie or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Just about anything that I could be interested in. It could be about sports. It could be about travel,
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's always fun to travel vicariously through YouTube
Yeah.
during the winter time.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say yeah, I'd honestly prefer YouTube more so than Netflix more often than not. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting because I think YouTube is becoming the new Netflix with more people watching
Yeah.
YouTube on TV.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and there's even mini series on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're into, more amateur films or more amateur series or amateur TV shows or
Yeah.
smaller creators that aren't, doing large scale Hollywood productions, then yeah, that's an option on
Yeah.
YouTube as well.
I think the progression of YouTube has been amazing. I remember back in the day before, well, when YouTube was in its infancy and
Yeah.
just starting up, and people didn't really know what this platform was about.
Mhm.
And just seeing people post videos, vlogs, and then lots of cat videos. And now it's progressed with celebrities being on YouTube. You have people like Cristiano Ronaldo, famous footballer, who is on YouTube. Do you think that YouTube should be exclusive to ordinary people and keep out celebrities? Do you think they have an unfair advantage when it comes to YouTube?
Well, yeah, they absolutely have an advantage because they have more influence and popularity. But no, I think it's smart on their
Yeah,
end.
definitely.
If I were them, I would
Yeah,
do the same thing.
yeah, Yeah.
if I had a lot of influence and I could start a podcast with that head start,
Yes.
that's smart. That's smart. They could promote their own brands. I could understand why they would do it as a business move, to be honest. For the smaller creators, I mean, the good thing is we still have the opportunity to
Yeah.
still essentially build an audience and do the same thing on YouTube. It helps. YouTube has really good reach
Yeah.
in terms of it acts as a search engine as well too.
Yeah.
So we're not really restricted to our local municipality when it comes to trying to reach people. You can
Yeah.
really, as you probably know too,
Mm.
especially teaching something like English, you have a worldwide audience really
Yeah.
from all continents basically around the world.
Definitely. And I just think it's good for the audience because they have so many options. They can listen to so many different types of accents, see lots of different faces, teaching styles. And the more that they can interact with English, for example, it can only benefit them because they have more exposure. So I think it's really good in that sense. And going back to Ronaldo, I think his children actually pressured him or manipulated him to go onto YouTube because they wanted
Yeah.
the golden play button. So yeah, that's quite interesting because, but it's partly for a business move, and then partly to appease his children. It's like a movie star who would put his kids in his movie or make a movie just for his kids. So the way it's progressed has been so fascinating. I've tried to dip my toe into other social media sites like Instagram and Facebook, but I found that YouTube has such a more lasting impression, I think, with the content and the length of content that you can create. Have you found there to
Well,
be,
absolutely.
yeah,
Or sorry, yeah, I was just gonna say absolutely. I could tell you firsthand. I've tried cross promoting my different platforms, and the people just stay on the platform that they prefer.
yeah,
So if I try sending people from Instagram over to YouTube, the people on Instagram stay on Instagram. They
yeah,
like short form content. The
yeah,
people on YouTube stay on YouTube. They like long form content. It's a completely different psychology of the viewer on YouTube versus the viewer on Instagram or TikTok. So
yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
yeah, definitely. I think it's especially with YouTube, you it's like a rabbit hole. You can go into the analytics and looking at all of that stuff, and it's really fascinating. I think the way that they've created the platform and give creators the tools to have a look at what they are creating for free. I think it's really interesting. Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah.
perfect. And have you had any strange comments on social media about the content that you've created?
Ah, strange comments. More so on the short form content. Yes.
Yeah,
On the long form content, it's been pretty straightforward. On the long form, I'll just teach the principles that I think will help people learn English. They'll give me their feedback. Nothing weird when it came
yeah,
to that and my YouTube audience. But yeah, when it comes to the TikTok audience, the Instagram audience,
yeah,
the Facebook audience, yes, lots of weird comments, lots of lots of comedians on those platforms
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, definitely. I think it's sometimes you can have comments which, you know, are not motivating. They can be kind of negative comments. So how do you deal with the negative comments?
Uh, The negative comments, I don't really deal with them, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't really deal with them. I when I was starting out about a couple of years ago, I would respond to every comment and I would see every comment.
yeah,
Nowadays, I don't really have the time to go through the comments on short form content,
yeah,
but on YouTube, I pay attention to every comment and I try to respond to all of them.
yeah,
But I haven't seen anything weird on YouTube.
yeah,
I would say probably 2 years ago when I was looking through comments on short form content. Um, I would do these really short videos where I would just give a list of vocabulary words. And then
Yeah,
on the last one, I would ask them to guess what it is based on the image
yeah,
and say in the comments, what is this?
yeah,
And then some of them would purposely just say the wrong thing just to be funny, for
yeah,
example.
yeah,
That's like the classic example.
yeah,
And then like it would get their comment would get like 1,000 likes and everyone would think it's funny. And it's like
yeah,
I didn't even then I didn't really deal with it. I just left it there kind of like
yeah.
just
Be yeah, because it's something that you can't really plan for. So you set
yeah,
out to create some content. You hope that your content can be adding value to other people. They can
yeah,
find it either entertaining or informative. But then when you have some of these comments, sometimes you don't plan for how you will react to that.
yeah.
So I think sometimes taking it with a pinch of salt, not taking it too seriously, can really help. But I think at the end of the day, you're adding value, I think, which is really, really good. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and you hope it reaches as many people as it can. It seems like YouTube has a really good filter for people who want to watch your type of content.
Yeah.
But the other platforms, it may show it to just a wider range of people who are either looking to be entertained
Yeah.
and not necessarily being looking to be educated, essentially.
Yeah. Because if you think about learning English, for example, sometimes it can feel like a serious topic, like I need to learn English. So but being able to consume English on the go, if you're on the bus or on the train or at the doctor's appointment off in the office and you're just have a few moments to spare, you can just scroll through your phone and you're picking up something useful. Because I think being able to be immersed and interacting with English a lot of the time can really help. What do you think about being immersed in a language? Do you think it helps?
Yes, I do believe it helps. I'd say the advantage with English is that it's ubiquitous.
Yeah,
It's everywhere. So honestly, it will definitely help if you live in an English speaking region,
yeah,
but you do not necessarily need that to immerse yourself in English to some degree, you
yeah,
know. So that's the huge advantage of English. It's a lot easier to immerse yourself in English specifically than any other language I could think of.
yeah, definitely.
Are you from London? If you don't mind
Yes,
me asking, you're in
yes,
London. Okay.
yes,
See,
yeah.
around what is the population of London? Is that like they have over 10 million people?
It
Very
feels
big.
it feels a lot more. It feels like it's just becoming overpopulated over time. I'm not sure the exact number, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
incredibly busy.
Yeah, I was just wondering what it would feel like to live in a in a city that huge from a population standpoint, if that feels overwhelming or
I
if
think,
it's kind of
yeah,
just normal for you.
I think the nice thing about London is that you always have a park within 10 minutes walking distance to a park. So you can find these pockets of quiet spaces. And I think when people think of London, they think of central London, which is zone one. And that's where you have the tourist attractions like Buckingham Palace, Westminster. So all of these London Eye, so all of these tourist attractions, and that's incredibly busy. But I always advise people just to go off the beaten track if they're traveling to London, jump on the tube, jump on a bus, and get lost on purpose. Just go anywhere. And because one of the fantastic things is the public transport system. So you will never really get lost. You can always find your way back. And it's almost like an adventure, and you discover new places that you might not have visited before. So I think definitely.
Oh, that's fascinating because yeah, I come from a city. the population of 750,000 people,
Okay.
and so it's not very it's not very comparable.
Yeah.
That's a very
Is
small town
do
feel.
you have a sense of community in the town? Do people know each other?
Yes, everybody knows each other, or if you were just walking down the street and you just picked a random person, you would mutually know somebody,
Okay.
that you know someone who knows someone who knows that. Like
Yeah.
it's that type of city. So you're
Yeah.
pretty closely connected with just about everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that has its pros and cons.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the cons are it's a little more conservative. It's less free, less loose, less liberal because if you do something that people will judge you negatively for,
Yeah.
a lot of people will know about it.
Yeah.
um, whereas in bigger cities, I've found they it tends to be much more free, much more liberal. People kind of do what they want to do, and it's more accepted.
Yeah.
Um, and then also you can meet someone and you could possibly never encounter them again
Yeah.
if you're living in a really big city. So
Yeah. I think it's interesting because in a busy city, you can almost get lost. So sometimes you lack that community, that sense of community. And it can become a bit strange sometimes. I think generally English people, they don't really talk to each other that much unless they know each other. But I consciously make an effort to strike up a conversation with with random people. So if
mhm.
I'd go into the supermarket, for example, something as simple as talking to the cashier, person at the checkout, asking them how their day is going, for example, because sometimes a lot of the communication can be transactional. It can just be, okay, here's my bread, scan the bread, put it into the bag, and off you go. And you don't have that interaction there. So, but I think having that and consciously thinking of that, I think is important because from the person working there, I remember when I was a lot younger, I used to work in retail when I was 17, and the job was incredibly boring. So
Yeah,
having that interaction with other people, it made the day go faster and having a chit chat. It didn't have to be anything very long, but also acknowledging the other person. I think it's nice. I think it's nice for your emotional well-being. But with society today, people are really busy. People are really stressed. People are in a hurry, especially in a busy city. You've always got
yeah,
somewhere to go. You've got something important to do. So it's like you feel like you don't have that time to interact with the other person. But I think
yeah.
taking that time, I think is good.
So, absolutely. And then yeah, I guess that's easier to do some places than others, but
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Perfect. And so do you have any other plans for today?
For today, I'm going to record a couple of YouTube videos
Yeah.
and then I'm going to get organized for the next week to make sure that I'm not scrambling when tomorrow morning comes around on Monday. So,
Yeah.
what about you?
A very quintessential thing. I think I'm going to have a cup of tea after this
Yeah,
and just put my feet up, see what's on Netflix, and just get ready for the week ahead. I quite like Sunday evenings, especially. So it's almost 6 o'clock here. So it's a
right.
nice time to unwind for a few hours before bed because you can enjoy this time almost guilt-free because
Mm-hmm.
it's a Sunday. It's not a Monday where you think, all right, I've got a lot of things to do. So it's quite
Yeah,
a nice time where you can you don't have to feel guilty for not doing anything really. So it's nice. Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Avery, for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, and thank you for having me, of course. And yeah, if you want to collaborate for anything else in the future, I'd be glad to.
Perfect. Thank you so much again.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.